I'm Gurpreet, and welcome to this session on continuous security, the DevOps way. So, security, in the past few years has gained a lot of prominence. Security violations, to be precise. There have been a lot of, attacks, cybercrime attacks, phishing attacks, hacking attacks, and I think it's a great level. Like both from startups to all the big corporations are getting, affected by that. You all would have heard of PETA and WannaCry and those kind of ransomwares which happened earlier, last 1 or 2 years back. So much so that the then President Obama declared a national emergency for tackling cybercrime. And now DevOps as a concept, as a principle, has gained prominence in the last few years. So we'll see how we can use the principles of DevOps to have security checks and balances throughout the pipeline, so that we don't have any surprises towards the end. So this is just a brief agenda, little bit about myself, security challenges, and how we can accelerate through DevOps. I'll be brief about that and how we can go for secure DevOps, and what kind of open source tool chains we can use to have secure DevOps checks and balances throughout the pipeline, and what should be your action plan if you're just starting out, and what kind of benefits you can expect. So before moving on, I hope, I guess everybody probably would be aware of DevOps, right? Anybody not aware of DevOps? Oh, great. And secure DevOps, like anybody not aware of that? Okay, I think that's fine. That's good actually. Little bit about myself. I'm a DevOps and cloud enthusiast. I'm working as a solution architect in Aricent, Gurgaon. Few years back, with a bunch of like-minded people, we founded a Java user group in Delhi. I blog on my site off and on, and I also authored a book on Elastic Stack. Then these are my coordinates on Twitter and LinkedIn. So as I just mentioned, the real paradigm change has been that we are not developing all the source code ourselves. Can someone tell me, like, when was the last time you made an application or a product for your organization, and everything which was there in the deployment was written by you only, or your team only? No library, nothing. I think probably that's very hard to see in these times. So I would say that, or rather I would argue that we are not writing code that much. We are assembling code a lot of times. We're using third-party software. We're using open source, which is fine. But then we need to take care that even if there's a security glitch in those third-party libraries, those open source components, we have to take care of that. So being conscious about security becomes very important. It's not that these kind of attacks are common in US or Europe, those kind of countries only. Back home also in India, like Economic Times reported in 2017, there were like 53K cyber crime incidents were reported. And the connected world in which we are living, by the use of mobile technologies, cloud computing, IoT, where we can, we envision, machines getting connected to humans, collaboration, etc., which is all great, but it again leads to challenges for security, because it's so much more easier to have, vulnerabilities and hacking attacks. So a bit about, how we used to do security-related testing in the waterfall world, or maybe trying to do that even today itself. So what we used to do earlier was like releases. We had a luxury of like 4, 5, or 6 months release cadence, and towards the end of release cycle, there used to be some security champs or infosec champs who used to do a security audit and raise a bunch of vulnerabilities, and some people would go and see what is wrong and then try to fix it. While we still had some time in those longer releases, but still there were many times it led to delays, it led to design changes towards the end of release. But nowadays we don't have that luxury. Why? Because we have adopted agile practices, where release cadence is practically a sprint boundary of 2 weeks or 3 weeks maybe. So that luxury we don't have. So we are releasing software every sprint to the production tenant. But if you are not testing security with the same cadence, then there are challenges. We cannot do security checks only once every quarter, or maybe 2 times a quarter, or like that. We are deploying software in production very fast. Like Amazon probably does one deployment in 12 seconds. Maybe that is the highest. But there are many organizations which are doing thousands of deployments, in a day. So just imagine like so much software going to production. and if you're not continuously doing security checks, there's a problem. And again, adopting DevOps makes things easier to release software, but then it adds more responsibility to do security checks. So just mentioned earlier, if there are security challenges towards the end of the release, you will have slow release cycles. There would be higher cost of fixing them, and there's a breakdown of agile and DevOps principles, as I think Josh Corman from Rugged DevOps points out. This is the end of security as we know it, and it isn't a good thing. So very briefly, DevOps movement, really started in 2009 by the Velocity conference, where two gentlemen from Flickr, I think Paul Hammond and John Alspo presented, how they are doing 10 deployments in a day. People were shocked at that time, like how can you do 10 deployments in a day? Now, if someone is doing 10 deployments in an hour, then also people will not be shocked. So, so in 2009, it's really the DevOps movement started. While many people have various definitions of DevOps, the one which I like is from Nathan Harvey from Chef Technologies. DevOps is a cultural and professional movement focused on how we build and operate high-velocity organizations, both from the experience of its practitioners. And the whole idea is that all the activities which are there in development of software, they're interlinked. It's like cyclical, and then you also funnel in back the feedback which you get from the field. So right from the planning phase, then the design phase, implementation, you're doing incremental, software implementation. Then monitoring, your software deployed in the production, and taking feedback from the field and funneling it back to your technical backlog, or the product backlog. So yeah, very briefly on DevOps, I think we all know about it. So then, why is secure DevOps, right? So I just mentioned earlier also that we are developing software in a much faster manner today. We are living in a very hyper-connected world, so that basically leads us to be more responsible, more cautious for security. And the idea is to use the same concepts, same principles of DevOps to do security verification also. The whole idea being that we have a pipeline for DevOps, and we have security verification, security checks and balances throughout the pipeline. So you can say that secure DevOps really is an intersection of DevOps and Sec. So whether you are doing, when you are in the development phase, start thinking about secure design, start thinking about techniques like threat modeling, attack surface, etc. So you know that how the software is shaping up. Many times I've seen a challenge with people is when you say DevOps, they say that, hey, yeah, I know DevOps, I know this tool, I know Jenkins, and that is DevOps. I think DevOps is much more than that. So it should start in the design phase itself, because if there are systemic issues in your software which you never tackled in the initial phases, you will not be successful ultimately. Then the operation phase, of course, is where you can have policies for firewalls and vulnerabilities, proxies, etc. And the secure phase, you can say, is as one part of this intersection, is that where you have maybe checks in your development process, where you have logging, you have monitoring, vulnerability testing, pen testing, those kind of techniques you use. So I guess most of you are aware of OWASP. Anybody not? Yeah, I think they're doing a great job, being non-profitable, not for profit, and releasing a lot of documentation, tutorials, videos, tools to help people, to help companies, organizations to make secure software. So they keep on coming up with their regulations and their guidelines for what kind of key secure vulnerabilities are there going on. So this is, I think, amongst the latest one. I'll not go into those details. I guess everybody is aware. So, but just to give a highlight that the security, danger is live, and organizations like OWASP keep on doing a good job in making people realize these kind of things, which might look simple, but they are real danger and threat. So this is some principles from the Secure DevOps Manifesto. So some people call it DevSecOps, DevOpsSec, or SecDevOps. I think any one of you choose, that is fine. All understand what is there. So the whole idea is that we use concepts like automation so that we fail fast, and we use that learning to improve our software, right? And we have tools right from our unit testing phase, integrated with our IDs, etc., and so that we don't wait till the end. So these principles, they really talk about their high-level principles, but end of the day they all talk about the same thing, that we need to integrate all these checks and balances throughout the pipeline. So this is a representation of how you can really integrate security checks and balances throughout the pipeline. So this secure DevOps principle also kind of became popular. I think in 2012 there was a blog by Neil McDonald. He's from Gartner. He said that we should use DevOps principles to make software secure. The idea being that we shift left all the security checks. We don't wait till the end. We don't have the luxury of long release cycles. We have maybe fortnightly or monthly kind of releases. So we automate and shift left all checks and balances. Starting from the planning phase, where we do threat modeling and attack surface, flow diagrams, etc., which really helps us in making sure that we're designing in a proper manner. When we are doing development, we basically do reviews which are focused from security point of view, not really only from the business logic perspective, but like what kind of security concepts we are using. We should review from that perspective also. Access control, RBAC, those kind of things, which should all be looked into during the development phase. So when you have verification phase, unit testing phase, you can integrate tools like static analysis, dynamic analysis. You can use techniques like SCA to see see like whether the software you're developing follows your organization's policies. You can use techniques like IST to profile the software and see the software from the inside, rather than just from a black box perspective. So all this, there are different tools. I'll cover that in subsequent slides, which you can integrate with the IDE, and that can be run whenever you're doing a UT. So during the deployment phase, you can use techniques like Chaos Monkey to make sure that if something awkward happens in the runtime in production, you're already aware of that. You can do first testing to see like how your software behaves if there are invalid inputs or chaotic data being given to it. Sign your images to make sure they're hardened. During the configuration phase, use mechanisms like defense in depth, have integrating checks, and verify the signature of your binaries before you actually go and deploy them. You can, as we say that this is really the phase where you can say it's security as a code. Right? You can use tools like maybe Ansible or various other tools to make secure software deployable. Monitoring phase. So whatever we might do, despite our best intentions, there could still be certain vulnerabilities which might leak to production, and we need to monitor those. So you perform penetration testing, do monitoring regularly. You can use techniques like RASP, WAP shielding, etc., because your software should be resilient that if some attack happens in the field, then it should be able to do self cleanup, for example. And prediction, like you can use cognitive techniques to actually predict also like what kind of vulnerabilities can be expected. You can share intelligence data. I think STIX and TAXI are some very popular standards for sharing security related intelligence data. And towards the end, based on what kind of vulnerabilities you're seeing, what are your observations in the production, use that to further harden your software. Use that to improve your incident response time, right? So it's basically a closed loop, it's a funnel, and this will help in your governance of your software pipeline also. So another interesting thing is like we often come out this phrase like security sandwich. So the thing is like we all are doing agile, etc. So when we start creating a backlog, product owners come with some requirements. We start creating a backlog. We start thinking about features, business functions, etc. But we don't really initially think about what would be security related, backlog items, what would be security related epics. So during the planning phase itself, start thinking about what would be your epics for security. And when you go for sprint planning, create those kind of tasks, etc. Create those kind of user stories throughout your sprint, throughout your release cycle. So it is all a continuous affair rather than being something like a sandwich. Towards the end of, let's say, 2 or 3 months, you start having a bulk of security related stories only. That's now, I think, that is not an optimal approach to follow. And when you have, let's say, you do sprint review, or you do a user story acceptance, the product owners have to accept a user story. You can adapt your definition of done. For example, I've include security related criteria in that. Like these are 4, 5, 3 bullet items from a security point of view, and they have to be followed. Then only the product owner is going to accept the story. So, and when you do retros, etc., start thinking from security point of view. Like also, besides the rest of the stuff which you do. So think differently in your agile cycle, in your agile sprints also, and have all the security tasks and stories into sprint. So when we talk about application security, there are few you can say bucket items which you can bracketize it, and things which you do, especially when you're trying to start with secure DevOps, or when you're trying to start adoption of secure verification, etc. Rather than boiling the ocean, start small. Identify maybe 1 or 2 classes of vulnerabilities. For example, you have tons and tons of code, for example, and one fine day you run a static analysis, and it gave you so many warnings, so many violations in all different categories. So rather than saying that, hey, I'm going to fix everything and then I'm only going to do everything else, let's say you take 1 or 2 vulnerabilities and say, I'm going to clean up all these kind of vulnerabilities, then I'm going to attack the next set of vulnerabilities. So this is how you can do an incremental manner. Maybe you pick some areas of code, that could be another way of doing it, and you say that I'm going to fix this particular area of code and then move to the next particular area of the code. So initially itself, identify some critical items, maybe hashing, maybe encryption, whatever, and you can talk to the InfoSec guys. So the whole idea actually of secure DevOps is that just like earlier we used to have InfoSec champs, they would still be there. I mean, although we want that security should not be only one person's job, it should be everybody's job. That is the whole idea behind continuous security. But the role and the importance of an InfoSec champ will still be there, like who could be just giving you an overall governance, etc., and who would be probably more aware of these principles. So start having dialogue with those InfoSec champs within your teams beforehand, and talk to them about certain key vulnerabilities, certain areas, and they can give guidance how to design and implement your software. Include proactive alerts, maybe have some events, alerts, alarms, etc., while you are doing these kind of software implementation, so that towards the end if there's some vulnerability going on. So dynamic analysis, like when we come to this phase, you all would have some policies as part of your organization or as part of your customers request or charter. So ensure those kind of policies, either for containerization, etc., are being followed. And as always in software, we fix something, we might break something. So one thing could be like, whenever you fix some vulnerability, try to add some regression cases, so as to make sure that you don't break something which was previously fixed. Have a baseline of security, like I think it's pretty obvious, like whenever you have decent fixed security violations, just baseline those things. So we should have proper visibility also of security violations, so detect attackers as easily as possible, and keep on testing your software. Once you have pen testing, vulnerability testing in the pipeline, just keep on doing it regularly, and just refine. So that will help in refining your incident, response. Build checks and balances in your pipeline, so that there could be certain functions, especially if you're using maybe like JavaScript, for example. I'm just taking an example. There could be certain methods or functions which might be dangerous or which give a lot of freedom. Stop using them, have those kind of policies. And if there are some sensitive additions, you can have those scripts in the pipeline so that whenever there's some security related additions or modifications, an alert can come to the team. And especially, let's say there's a part of the code which was maybe not modified in past few months or maybe few years. Someone has done some changes. Just go and see. There should be some alerts which can come so that you're aware that something which was not previously being modified is being modified, just to make sure that security violations are not happening because of that. And yeah, there are critical updates being released for all the softwares generally. Keep an eye for that and regularly update your software. So as I mentioned earlier also, open source world has tons of tools. I have sampled few of them. This is by no means all the tools which are available. There are many more available. So if you start from threat modeling, so OWASP has come out with a Threat Dragon. Microsoft has a threat modeling tool. You can leverage that. And by the way, in this diagram, you could see in this chart, you can see a lot many tools are from OWASP. They have very good tool chains. Similarly, for static analysis, of course, you have Sonar, which is the leader, and Findwork, etc. And there are others like Brakeman, Bandit, code reviews. You all know, Garrett and all those things. And for dynamic analysis, I think Z-Attack Proxy is a very good tool. You can try out, experiment with these tools. And similarly for IAST, you can use dependency check from OWASP. Retire.js is another tool. And Selenium and all, we all know, it's a very popular tools. For configuration, you can use Vault, HashiCorp, or you can use StackStorm, Spacewalk, etc. And then there are other tools for fuzz testing like OSS Fuzz, SIMP, etc. For pen testing, you can use Nmap, Metasploit, or Kali, or there's another tool from OWASP, OWTF. You can use that. And for monitoring, again, there are many tools: Manage Engine, NoSeg, Localize. So I think pick few and experiment. Whichever works for you, you can go ahead with that. I think OWASP has done another great job. They have come out with the DevSecOps Studio project. This project is essentially to train people in adapting to the secure DevOps principles. So if you're just starting out, I would highly recommend that you go and start using this project. It's very easy to set up, and to start, it has few tools already integrated inside it. But if you want to train your team, you want to train yourself, you want to experiment, so this is a great tool. Yeah, I think it has Ansible and QoS security using Zap and BDD, Gauntlet, etc. Bakeman, a lot of tools integrated already with that. But yeah, just explore using it. I mean, action plan. I mean, if you're just starting out, so identify some primary skills which you, in the team, and what technologies you want to adapt, what kind of vulnerabilities you want to attack. Prepare a security team. What I mean here is that invest in training. So there can be some team members in in your project or your organization who are more tracking this security related areas, so that they can help the larger team. Shift left all your security checks and balances throughout your pipeline, and use automation techniques, automation tools to fail fast and to course correct if there are challenges. Identify vulnerabilities early on and try to take action, and also during the production phase itself, see what kind of attacks are happening. So many a times it is not a bad idea if you kill your servers also. So there are people who advocate that why not? I mean, if you have hundreds of VMs running in production on a regular basis, restart instances. So if some attacker has gained an advantage, that advantage would go away then. So that is also another interesting technique. And set some policies for security, whether the kind of configurations you want, or the kind of containerization you want, the kind of sizing you want for your system. I think benefits we probably know that. I think one of the biggest benefit is that recovery in case there is an attack in the system. It's very easy to, I would not say easy, but it is more faster to set it up and come back again. Reduction in cost because of automation. You don't have to wait till the end where the cost could be higher, and it helps in auditing and monitoring. Security by design. So as I mentioned earlier also, just like DevOps, the same thing applies for secure DevOps. It's not about using a particular tool. It's about start thinking about it. It's about a mindset change. Start thinking about security, secure DevOps from your design and architecture phase itself. And everybody should be responsible for security. It's an agile world. It's not that only one InfoSec champ is responsible for that. We all are responsible, and we all contribute towards that in whichever way in the whole DevOps process. It helps, as I mentioned earlier also, if there's an attack in the system, you can promptly tear down that particular part of infrastructure, and then you can reset it back again. So with that, I come to the end of my talk. Thank you very much for being patient.